Hi! Within this section, we're going to build our own backdoor. And remember what a backdoor is? Backdoor lets us connect to another computer. Okay? So we have done this using wheel in our Windows virtual machine and Kali Linux machine in the ethical hacking part. But now we're going to write our own backdoor, and when we work this backdoor in Windows, we're going to be able to connect to the Windows from Kali Linux. In fact, don't treat this section as a pure ethical hacking tool, because what we're going to write will actually let us connect to the other computers. So maybe we are trying to build a TeamViewer or some remote control tool, okay? So our code will be valid for this kind of tools as well. So let's start by thinking how we can write our own backdoor. There are two kinds of ways to do that actually. If you think very simply, we have to make a connection, okay? And there are two ways to do that. One, we can connect to the Kali machine from Windows machine. Two, we can connect to the Windows machine from Kali machine. So let me go back to my Kali machine. Of course, we can open a connection from this computer to Windows computer as well. And actually, this is called bind connection, okay? And of course, there is no such command. I just wrote it down so you can see how it's written. And if we connect from Windows to our own machine, Kali machine, it's called reverse connection. And reverse connection for hackers actually is safer, because if we connect to the Windows from this machine, Windows might actually understand what's going on. But if we open a connection from Windows to the Kali machine, then it will be much less suspicious. Okay? So we're going to write a reverse connection backdoor. And in order to write our own backdoor, we have to create this reverse connection. So let me show you what we're going to use in this section. We're going to use a library or a package called socket. Okay? So it lets us create TCP or UDP connections. Maybe you have heard socket before, maybe you haven't, but this is a very popular library, and if you're going to be working within cybersecurity, you should know how to work with this. So if you want, you can read the documentation. I'm just going to briefly show it to you, and of course later on I will show you how to write socket within Python code. So we're going to be working with this AF-INET family, okay? As you can see, it says that if you supply the host and the port using the AF-INET family, then you will be able to create your own connection. And other than AF-INET, actually there are other features like Bluetooth down here, but we're not going to be dealing with those. So we're going to be giving this port and the IP address, and it will create our connection for us. So we're going to be using the sock stream in order to create our own TCP connection. And I think we have talked about this before, but let me refresh. Generally, we use UDP for uncontrolled fast connections. Like when we try to, let me go back, something happened. Like when we try to download videos or audio something. Okay, so we have to be fast. We can afford to be uncontrolled. But TCP actually is a more controlled, more stable way to send data. And when using or sending low byte datas, then it's easier or safer to use TCP. So we're going to be using TCP in our connection. So I'm going to write this not only on Kali Linux but also in Windows as well. Because why? Because we're not going to write only one software in this section. Actually, we're going to be writing two. First, we're going to create our own backdoor in Windows, and in Kali, we have to create a listener tool in order to get this connection and manage this connection from Windows. Okay? Remember, back in ethical hacking section, we have created our backdoor with will, but also we have used MSF console or Metasploit to handle this connection. So we're going to write two separate software tools in this section. And of course, they share a lot of common codes. So we're going to be completing this synchronously. Okay, we're going to write the backdoor and then we're going to write the listener at the same time with two machines. So you have to let Windows and Kali Linux run at the same time throughout this whole section. So I'm going to use Sublime Text in Windows and I'm going to use PyCharm in Kali Linux because that's how we just build our setup in the first place, and it really doesn't matter. And in fact, I could have written this both in Windows or Kali Linux and email the other one, but that would be non-convenient because we have to test this constantly. So let's stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to create our first connection.